Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this oversized rib cardigan. I'll be making the cardigan a size small. You can find the free written pattern with sizes extra small to 5 extra large on my blog. The link is down below in the description bar. You will need chunky or bulky weight yarn. All of the yarn amounts for the different sizes are listed in the blog post. An 8mm crochet hook, some scissors, and a darning needle. We're going to start the first front panel by using foundation double crochets. To begin, create a slip knot. Insert your hook into the loop and chain 2. Throughout this pattern, chain 2 and chain 1 do not count as a stitch. To make your first foundation double crochet, we're going to yarn over and insert your hook into the first chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through. This forms the chain of your first stitch. We're now going to make the double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. And you've formed your first foundation double crochet. To crochet your next foundation double crochet, we're going to yarn over. Insert your hook into the bottom of the first stitch, the chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through. This forms the chain. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And now you have 2 foundation double crochets. You're going to repeat the steps of yarn over, insert your hook into the base of the previous stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through to create your chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you'll repeat this until you have 75 stitches in total. And for this pattern, the stitches run the length of the cardigan, not the width. Once you have 75 stitches, turn your work. So the majority of this pattern is worked up in 2 different types of rows. The base slip stitch row and the base double crochet row. So for row 2, we'll be crocheting a base slip stitch row. So we're going to work into the back loops of the stitch. Normally when you insert your hook into a stitch, you pick up both the front and the back loop. To work into the back loop, only pick up the strand of yarn furthest away from you. To begin row 2, chain 1. Back loop slip stitch in each stitch across. Keep your slip stitches nice and loose. This will make it easier when you're working the next row of stitches. When you're at the end of the row, place a normal slip stitch into the last stitch. Make sure you pick up both the front and the back loop. You should have 75 stitches in total. Turn your work. So row 3 is the same as row 2, a base slip stitch row. Chain 1 and then back loop slip stitch in each stitch. The easiest way to spot the back loops is to rotate your work so the tops of the stitches are facing you. At the end of row 3, slip stitch into the last stitch of the row. Turn your work. For row 4, we'll repeat the base slip stitch row. So chain 1, back loop slip stitch in each stitch across. Slip stitch in the last stitch of the row and then turn your work. For row 5, we're going to crochet a base double crochet row. To begin, chain 2. We're going to back loop double crochet in each stitch across. To back loop double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Back loop double crochet across. Double crochet in the last stitch. You'll have 75 stitches in total. Turn your work. We're going to repeat rows 2 to 5 until the end of row 22. So crochet 3 base slip stitch rows and then 1 base double crochet row. At the end of row 22, you should have just finished a base slip stitch row. The body is crocheted entirely in one piece, so we're not going to fasten off, and we're now going to start on row 1 of the back panel. To begin row 1 of the back panel, chain 1. Back loop slip stitch in each stitch until you have 21 stitches left in the row. When you have 21 stitches left in the row, place a normal slip stitch into the next stitch. We're now going to chain 21. This creates the armhole gap for the sleeve. In total, you should have 55 stitches and 21 chains. Turn your work. To start row 2 of the back panel, we're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. Slip stitch in each remaining chain. Once you've crocheted into the chains, back loop slip stitch across until the end of the row. Slip stitch into the last stitch of the row. You should have 75 stitches in total. Turn your work. And now we're going to repeat the pattern of 1 base double crochet row, followed by 3 base slip stitch rows, until you have 60 back panel rows. When you reach the armhole opening, back loop double crochet as per normal and then double crochet in the last stitch. Including the front panel, you should have 82 rows in total. Row 60 of the back panel should also be a base slip stitch row. And now we're going to create a second armhole opening. So we're going to repeat back panels row 1 and 2. So for your final back panel row 1, chain 1, back loop slip stitch until you have 21 stitches left in the row. When you have 21 stitches left, slip stitch in the next stitch, and then chain 21. As with row 1, you should have 55 stitches and 21 chains in total. Turn your work. For the last row of the back panel, repeat row 2. Slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, and then slip stitch in each remaining chain. Back loop slip stitch across, and then slip stitch in the last stitch of the row. You'll have 75 stitches and 84 rows in total. Turn your work. We're now going to crochet the second front panel. So repeat the pattern of 1 base double crochet row for every 3 base slip stitch rows until you have 21 second front panel rows. You should have 105 rows in total. We've finished the body panel. Fasten off. We're now going to crochet the sleeves. Start by creating a slip knot. Insert your crochet hook into the loop. Chain 49. To start row 1, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Slip stitch into the next 8 chains. Once you have 9 slip stitches, double crochet in each remaining chain in the row. The sleeves are also worked lengthways. The slip stitch portion creates the cuff of the sleeve. You should have 48 stitches in total. Turn your work. For rows 2 to 4, repeat the base slip stitch row. Along the slip stitch cuffs, take extra care to make sure you're working into the back loop. To crochet row 5, chain 1. Back loop slip stitch into the first 9 stitches. Back loop double crochet across. You'll see the cuff of the sleeve start to form. Double crochet in the last stitch of the row. You should have 48 stitches in total. Turn your work. Repeat rows 2 to 5 until the end of row 37. At the end of row 37, this is what your sleeve should look like. Fasten off. Fold your sleeve in half so that the wrong side is facing you. Whip stitch the edges of the sleeve together. Repeat these steps for the second sleeve. We're now going to crochet the pockets, and they have the same construction as the body panel. For row 1, foundation double crochet 17. You should have 17 stitches in total. Turn your work. Repeat the pattern of 3 base slip stitch rows for every 1 double crochet row until the end of row 13. Your final row should be a base double crochet row. Once you have 13 rows, rotate your work 45 degrees. We're going to slip stitch along the raw edge. Chain 1 and then slip stitch evenly along the edge. This will be the top edge of your pocket. There isn't an exact number of stitches. Just try to space your stitches out evenly so that the edge lies flat. Once you reach the corner, fasten off. Repeat these steps for the second pocket. We're now going to assemble the cardigan. Fold the front panels in so that the wrong side is facing you. Whip stitch the tops of the shoulder seams together. For a neat finish, space your stitches out evenly and only pick up the strands of yarn along the edge of the sweater. Once you've sewn the shoulder together, repeat for the other side, and then we're going to sew the sleeves onto the body. Line up the top of your sleeve with the shoulder seam. You can use stitch markers to hold your sleeve in place. Whip stitch the edges of the sleeve to the body. If you have a gap underneath the armhole, sew it closed. Repeat for the second sleeve. We're now going to crochet the hemline ribbing. To begin, create a slip knot. Insert your crochet hook into the loop. Chain 8. To start row 1, slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Slip stitch in each remaining chain. You should have 7 stitches in total. Turn your work. To start row 2, chain 1. Back loop slip stitch across. Slip stitch in the last stitch of the row. You should have 7 stitches in total. Turn your work. Repeat row 2 until your ribbing equals the width of the back and front panels. When the ribbing is the correct length, fasten off. You can use stitch markers or safety pins to hold the ribbing in place. Whip stitch the ribbing to the hem of the cardigan. When you've finished the hemline ribbing, repeat the ribbing steps for the neckline. Once you've sewn on the neckline ribbing, turn your cardigan inside out so that the right side is facing you. Place the pockets on the front panels and pin them into place. I suggest trying on your cardigan to double check the pocket placement. Whip stitch the edges of the pocket together, leaving the top open. Once you've sewn on your pockets, weave in all of your ends. And you've finished your rib crochet cardigan.